Welcome to the Career Dev Podcast, where we help you navigate your career journey with clarity, courage, and confidence. Hi, I'm Dr. Tracy Shroyer. I'm a career coach, professor, and your guide through the ever changing landscape of work and life. And this month, I'm going to introduce you to something brand new, something I've been building based on the needs of hundreds of clients and students that I've worked with. It's called the Career Compass 4C Framework, and it's designed to help you figure out what you need most in your career right now. Because let's be honest, career growth is not a one size fits all. Some people, they feel very stuck and they need to get clear. Others know what they want, but they struggle to tell their story. Others are overwhelmed by networking, and some just need help getting their momentum. And that's where the 4C framework comes in. So here's a quick snapshot for you. The 4Cs. The first C is for clarify, for when you're not sure what you want or you feel like you don't have direction. The second C is communicate, and this is for when you need to tell your story clearly through things like your resume, your LinkedIn profile, and the interview process. The third C is for connect, and this is for when you need to build and strengthen relationships that lead to opportunities. And then the fourth and final C is cultivate. This is for when you're ready to grow, stretch, and stay sharp. Longer term, each pillar meets you where you are and it guides you to what's next. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about the second C, which is communicate. So let's dive in. So this week is all about how you present yourself to the world through your resume and through things like your LinkedIn profile. These tools are often that first impression you're going to make, and when they're done well, they can really open doors. It's really impressive to see examples of that happening. When they're misaligned, though, they can really keep those doors closed. And you may not even realize it. You may not even realize people taking a look at your LinkedIn or you're applying for job after job and your resume is just getting overlooked and you're not learning what is or what are the things that I need to tweak and improve upon so that my resume and my LinkedIn get attention. So I once worked with a client who was qualified, experienced, very motivated, but she wasn't hearing back from jobs. We tweaked a couple of pieces on her resume to show how she made an impact instead of just what she did. So not just listing responsibilities, but talking about those accomplishments, those achievements, and really setting her apart in the pack from telling what types of skills that she excelled in and just how that experience came to fruition. And guess what? She got an interview. People saw that, and that's what they were striving for, wanting to get more insight in. And she rose to the top of that pile. So, in today's episode, I really want to give you that same kind of clarity and confidence with your career communication. So, we're going to start off first with some top resume mistakes and how we can fix those. So, your resume is still one of the most important tools in your job search. It cannot stand alone by itself. So, there are numerous things that you need to be able to do to back up that resume. Your resume is not going to get you a job by itself. It's going to be you being able to present yourself in the interview, in the whole entire process. So many people, though, unintentionally undersell themselves in their resume. So, here are some of the common resume mistakes that I see. The first one is, and this kind of goes back to the story I was telling in this the beginning, is listing responsibilities instead of results. It's so easy to write something like I managed a team of 10 or responsible for onboarding or something like that. But those kinds of things don't show what changed because of you. One of the questions I ask myself when I'm going through my client's resume, and that I ask them with love, with great love, is who cares? Why is this important? And I keep coming back to who cares? Why do we need to know this? So instead of managed a team of 10 or responsible for onboarding, you could say something like, led a 10-person team to launch a new onboarding process that reduced ramp up time by 30%. Now, sometimes people don't have those numbers or those percentages of difference. And what I encourage you to do is look at if you have any reviews, past performance reviews, maybe mid-year reviews, quarterly discussions, goals that you set out for a job, or end of year reviews and comments from a manager and comments on goals or key performance indicators or KPIs. Those are perfect documents to use to help you identify what are some of these things where I can quantify and contextualize these accomplishments that I have and be able to talk to that. If you don't, that is perfectly fine. And a lot of times people don't, especially if they had left a company right away or, a couple jobs back and they're trying to identify what these are. And in those cases, I would encourage you to identify what are numbers that go with some of those accomplishments that you had. Maybe you don't know an exact percentage of something, but maybe you know dollars. And some clients didn't want to say specifically how many dollars they saved the company. So can we say millions? Can we say multi-million dollar contract? Can we say that you helped write out 12 or a dozen standard operating procedures? Are there a number of people that you led and you can talk about what was different with you as a leader of those individuals versus just saying, like, we went back to managed a team of 10? Managed a team of 10 who accomplished, and talk about something like that. So the first mistake was listing responsibilities instead of results. The second mistake is using passive or generic language. So you really want to avoid phrases like you helped with or you worked on, and you really want to switch to power verbs. So power verbs could be you led, LED, you created, you optimized, you collaborated, you increased, you streamlined, you minimized, things like that. And these types of power verbs really show energy and ownership, and they really highlight your accomplishments and what you did versus more of those bland helped with, worked on, did this, did that, blah, 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 blah. So that second mistake was be cautious of using passive or generic language. The third and final mistake I'm going to cover here in this section on the podcast is not tailoring your resume. So if you are using the same exact resume for every role, that is a missed opportunity. And I know those of you who are listening who may be seeking different job roles are rolling your eyes at me right now, are saying, but what you need, my response is what you need to do is really look at that job description and what are they looking for. And in order to make sure that you are bouncing up against that resume in that system for that organization, are you using the words and the skills and the experiences that they're looking for that are true to you in your resume? So you really want to customize your bullet points, your summary, and you want to make sure that it really talks to the job description and is really looking at those keywords, those skills that are being brought up so that you have a better chance of matching versus just trying to throw one resume out to the wind and hoping that it works. So I highly encourage that. And one thing that you can do that I have done also is maybe there's some roles that seem like the job description is very similar across the board. And if there's something that you're not overly concerned about wanting to get an interview for, yes, you can use that same resume. I would highly encourage if you are looking at jobs and you find one that really stands out, and typically there's a few that will stand out and like, oh my gosh, I really want this. Like, this is the job for me. It speaks to me, that you are tailoring your resume, you're customizing it to be a good fit for that job role. So, some quick wins you can make today based on these resume mistakes. You can start every bullet with an action verb that's under your work experience. Make sure that you're thinking about those power verbs versus it being bland and kind of standard language. Add at least one measurable result or outcome to the bullets that you have. I would make sure if you could put one or two within the bullet points that you have for a job role itself, that that is a great start. And if you're interested in learning more, I do have a video on my YouTube, and you could probably go to my YouTube account or type in my name and type in contextualizing accomplishments. And that is a great video for talking you through what are some examples and additional ways that you can show that result and that outcome. And then the last quick tip or win here is using formatting that's clean and skimmable Recruiters remember that they are taking mere seconds to decide whether to keep reading your resume or not. So you want to make sure that it is very clean, it is to the point, and they can easily skim through and find what they're looking for. So, next up, I want to talk about your LinkedIn profile and some must haves for your LinkedIn profile. So, your LinkedIn profile is your digital first impression. Even if you're not actively job hunting, people are looking at it. And sometimes you can tell who those people are exactly, and sometimes they have their settings changed or they may have a premium access that allows them to stay more hidden. So sometimes you never really know who it is that's looking at your profile. Recruiters are going to use LinkedIn's search tool to find candidates for a job. And if your profile doesn't include the right keywords, you're probably not going to show up on their radar. So, here are some ways to boost your visibility on your LinkedIn profile. The very first piece is your headline. This is your first impression. And LinkedIn typically defaults to your current or last job title. So you want to combine that with keywords or strengths. So here's an example. It may say operations manager with a vertical dash, then process optimization, vertical dash, team builder, vertical dash, root cause problem solver. So it may have those four big things for you are your headline. Take a look at typically when you go and you look at people who are in your network, you can get some ideas by just looking at your network of what do they have as their headline and think about things that are standing out. It's not just a job title alone, it's some other things that are going to help to pull in people's attention. The next section in your LinkedIn profile I want to touch on is your About section. If you do not already have an About section, what you can do is when you first go into your profile, you can click Add Profile section. And I believe it's in the Core or General section where it's an About, and you can add that in. Typically not standard if you don't already have it. The About section is not a summary of your resume. It is really your chance to talk directly to the person who's reading. You want to be able to share with them who are you, what problems do you love to solve, and what's next for you. You want to try to keep it conversational, but make sure it's clear, and your voice and your values are shining through. Next up is the featured section, and so many people disregard this, but this is a great place to showcase and market different highlights. So maybe you did a recent presentation and you do a post that you can add to your featured section. Maybe you have a published article out there, or your resume out there, and you can change and add that as an item in your featured. It helps to reinforce your credibility. And when somebody goes to look at your profile, they can see those items in your featured. It's almost like a pinned post section within your profile that will help you to stand out. And then the last one here is keyword optimization. So you want to make sure that your top skills and your target role appear in your headline, your about, and your experience sections. These act as magnets for recruiters. If you do not have the title of the role that you're applying for, similar to how you can do in your resume, if you have had a job that does those similar things, you can leverage AI tools like ChatGPT or Claude Gemini to give you some feedback and advice on what could you put as the name of the role that you had. So it is picking you up in those searches and it's not misrepresenting what you actually did. So here's what I would like you to do. I'm going to challenge you to pause this, unless you're in the car or you're walking and you can't really take a second, and maybe that's afterwards. But if you're able to, pause this, and I want you to Google yourself. Put in your name, first and last name. And if you have a more common first and last name, or you're not seeing yourself come up on some of those initial searches, you may have to put like your city and state in as well. And I want you to see what shows up first. If your LinkedIn profile is one of the top hits, is it reflecting the career direction that you're wanting to move towards? So, if you're one of my job seekers out there, I highly recommend if that's coming up and your headline is not showing that career direction and the skills that you have, that is going to be one of the first steps to go and revisit that and make those tweaks. All right. So now I want to talk about some common myths and what actually works. And while we're at it, I want to bust a few myths. So the first one I want to talk about is I have heard people say before, my resume should include every single thing that I have ever done. And that makes me cringe. That is so not true. Your resume is not your autobiography. It is absolutely a marketing document. So you really want to focus on what's most relevant to where you're headed and making sure that that's helping to tell that story for you. And typically we go back 10, possibly 15 years. If you have relevant experience prior to that 15 years that we want to showcase, we can do that in a line or two at the very end of your work experience or professional experience section. We don't have to highlight all of those job roles, all of those dates, and all of the bullet points for those. The next myth I want to touch upon is if somebody says, I don't need LinkedIn if I'm not job hunting. And I actually had a student ask me, well, if I'm not looking to get an internship or a job until my senior year and I'm a freshman, do I really need to look at this LinkedIn thing and keep working and doing things in it and finding people and connecting with them? And my response is, I wish I would have done that when I was in school. I wish I would have known about it sooner and started that process of building that network. Because one of the things that it's really going to help you do, even if you are early on in your career or you're currently a student, is it's going to help you to build up your network. It's going to be an opportunity for you to share your voice, share things that you're learning about, share the ability to ask questions of your audience, and it's also going to help you attract opportunities before you even need them. So, if you're on a trajectory of wanting to graduate with a business degree, or say you're wanting to go into a marketing analyst role and you're in a different type of role today, you can absolutely leverage building your network on LinkedIn, sharing your voice, asking questions, getting curious, sharing about projects that you're working on. Maybe you're able to do a side project within the marketing team or cross functionally with marketing. Maybe as a student, you're able to have an internship and you're able to share, or maybe there's a big project you're doing and you're able to share insight on that and really get people putting your name to that area and making that connection so that when something comes up down the road, they will have already seen you multiple times in their feed and your name coming up versus meeting you for the first time and doing that initial connection and it just being awkward because maybe at that point it's where you like desperately need a job and it's not like the start of your job search, and you have not built and nurtured that relationship over time. And the final myth I want to talk about is if I update my resume and LinkedIn, I'll sound too self promotional. And raise your hand if you're one of those people that feel like you're bragging if you talk about the awesome things that you've done. Well, you're not. There is a way that you could be bragging, but when you're working on your resume and your LinkedIn, you need to really own your story. If you don't do that, who is going to? So you want to make sure that in order to make sure that you are owning your story and you're promoting yourself, you're tooting your own horn, and that it's not something that you're crossing the line into bragging, is that you're being very focused and very intentional in the messaging that you're putting out, that you have a clear career direction. You are sharing not only the wins, but you're giving context as to the why behind those wins. And you want to make sure that you're aligning your resume and your LinkedIn profile so they're telling the same story. And you may see some posts coming up this week if you are connected to me in any of the social media platforms where I talk about making sure there's consistency from your resume, from your LinkedIn profile, from other different social media profiles. So people are getting the same version of you in different ways, especially from that professional setting. So, I want to take a few moments here to really wrap up this episode. And I want to ask you, how are you presenting your best self? If we think about some of these different opportunities to do that from a professional perspective, think about how are you presenting your best self? And what are some of the things that maybe you need to revisit and tweak or change slightly, maybe, to get yourself more in alignment with presenting your best self? So, if today's episode got your wheels turning, I've got a few resources to help you take the next step. So, the first one is you can grab my freebie. It's Top 10 Resume Mistakes and How to Fix Them. And it's a quick checklist you can use today to really look through and compare and contrast against your own resume. That is now available on my shop. Again, it's free, but that's where it sits. So, if you go to tracyshroyerphd.com and then you click on, I believe it's resources, the free option, and you'll see that come up, top 10 resume mistakes and how to fix them. The other thing that you could do is join the Career Development Club on LinkedIn. It's totally free. A lot of times there's job seekers in there or professionals that are looking to support each other. So make sure that you join that. Again, that's on LinkedIn, Career Development Club. And if you're looking for more structured support, I encourage you to check out Career Shifters Academy. And this is a new 8-week program that I'm going to be launching. And it's going to walk you through the full Career Compass 4C framework from start to finish. So we're going to go through each and every single pillar in a lot more detail. It's over an 8-week period. There are some live calls that you can catch recordings later if need be, and also a group that will post information in, and you'll get lots of great feedback. So that's Career Shifters Academy. If you're interested in learning more about that, you can visit tracyshroyerphd.com/C as in career, S as in shifters, A as in academy. So CSA, and learn some more about that and get added to the wait list. Next week, we are going to move into the third pillar, which is connect. And we're going to talk about the importance of networking. We're going to talk about job boards and really how to reach out, connect with people without feeling awkward. Because I know that can feel very awkward and cringy at times, especially when you don't know somebody. And if you are somebody who's shy or have that in your background, that can be a challenge. I'll share some real scripts, some strategies, and some tools to make connection easier. So, with that, I thank you for tuning in, for listening to this episode. And until next time, highly encourage you to keep showing up, keep telling your story with courage and clarity. And I'll see you on the next episode.